Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry for the delay. So welcome again, and welcome to those who are watching online. Glad to have you with us, but not with us. Undiscombobulated. You can say it that way. All right, so we have one new couple here tonight. So why don't you introduce yourselves to the group, and where are you from? Why are you here? No, wait, that doesn't sound quite right.
Happy to. I'm Bruce Kempen. This is my wife, Susie. We're currently members at Lord of Life, but looking for a church to get plugged in more, and that's really why we're here, is we're looking forward to hearing about the ministries of the church and opportunities to be able to serve.
Gotcha.
And find out more about everybody and what you're doing.
Very good.
And
So,
where is Lord of Life? I'm not familiar with everybody around in the area.
It's on 135th, and
Oh,
it is 135th and State Line. It is probably our easternmost, it's probably almost our easternmost congregation in Kansas. Maybe something downtown is a little further east. I'm not sure. Yeah, they're like 135th and State Line, so over by Lutheran High School.
and we have 4 sons, 8 grandchildren, and only one of the families lives in this area. The rest live in Wichita.
okay.
So, anyway,
Very good.
thank
All
you.
right, and so last week,
Do you want us to go around and
yeah, probably.
So they-
Give me
So they
just,
know, so they-
yeah, well, you know, yeah, day late and dollar short, you don't get to know who anybody else is.
exactly, see,
You don't get to know anybody else.
That big group,
You missed last week, you're done. No, let's do that. Just hold on just a second. So last week, we've got another video that's on our YouTube channel. That would be New Member Orientation Part 1. And we did some introductory stuff, but then I talked about worship, was kind of the main topic. And how we worship, why we worship here at Beautiful Savior, and just kind of a picture of what we do and why we do it, and how my thinking goes into that. So would encourage you to take a look at that and get kind of an explanation of, I don't know, a lot of things about worship in a kind of a mini quick Bible class type of a thing almost. What else did we do last week, Phil? Anything else? Oh, yep, and we filled out paperwork and things like that, so. All right, so, yeah, why don't we go around? Why don't we start with Trenton, because you're here, and not everybody knows you, so we'll start here, and then we'll work around to everybody that's here.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for coming tonight. My name is Trenton Travis. I've been a member here at Beautiful Savior for slightly less than Pastor Schultz.
Yeah, you were one of my first new members.
First classes.
Yeah, you probably were one of my first new members.
One of his first new member classes. So
Shy of 13 years.
yeah, just shy of 13 years is how long I've been here. So my wife Beth, also a member of the congregation, and then I have 2 daughters, Madeline, 16, and Olivia, who is 12. And I've been in different roles here at Beautiful Savior. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of them here in a little bit. But once again, thank you for being here, and looking forward to getting to know you guys on an individual basis.
So Madeline was 3 when I came.
All right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So Pastor Schultz, I have 5 boys, and 1 grandson and 1 on the way. So, and we've been here for 13 years. And before that, I was at Emmanuel Lutheran in Washington, Missouri as associate pastor. And before that, I taught chemistry and physics for 4 years at a Lutheran high school up in Chicago. So.
And I introduced myself to when they came in.
Excellent. Excellent.
Jeremiah Ullman, new member, just joined, I guess, not just joined, been a little bit, but.
You've been a little bit. We haven't had this class.
Haven't had the
So I have a
class.
whole bunch of people who've joined and they don't know they're supposed to come to this class because they're technically members because the elders said yes,
Yeah.
but we never did an orientation with them because of COVID and
Yep. So from Nebraska, graduated in Omaha, college in Omaha, and then down here for working for Garmin.
so there's gonna be a whole bunch of people that get links to these 2 videos.
Yeah, yeah. Chris and Mina Owens, and
We
we're,
just, yeah,
go
we just
ahead.
moved here in April from Scottsdale, Arizona, so we're new.
Yep. We lived in the Shawnee, Kansas, we lived in Shawnee for 21 years for our careers, and then we moved to Scottsdale for 14, and now we're back to be closer to family, and, yeah, and we've just been here for a few months, probably, yeah.
Was it Nina, is that right?
Mina, yeah,
Mina.
M-Y-N-A.
Elmwood.
Uh-huh.
Connie and John Ketting. We came, let's see, we came here right before Christmas, somewhere along in there. It was the middle of COVID. We went to Trinity in Mission, Kansas, and they were pretty much shut down. So we started coming here for parking lot communion, and we're so thankful to be able to just have communion. And then we said, gee, maybe we ought to try the service, and so we started coming and really liked it. So we've been here ever since then. Anyway, that's probably about it.
Oh, the spelling is K-O-E-T-I-N-G. Okay.
Yeah, good German name.
That's right.
And give me your names again one more time.
Bruce and Susie.
Bruce and Susie, thank you.
Last name is Kempin, Kempin.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Well, this
None of our
evening,
visitors are here.
I guess I'm on. So this evening, we've got some folks coming in to talk to you a bit about, who they are, what they do, as Mr. Travis mentioned. Trenton. So I had a teacher named Mr. Trenton, so it's like, okay, I have to be careful. But we have we have our congregational president and several board people coming in just to explain what they're doing, who they are, the role of the board, some of the activities taking place here, and just letting you know more about how we operate and how the lay people function within the different boards and groups within the church. So, Trenton, if you're ready, we'll let you run with it.
Absolutely. So once again, my name's Trent Travis.
Hold on. Use that. It doesn't amplify you in here,
Okay,
but it puts it
pipes into there. Okay. So thank you once again for being here. And once again, my name is Trenton Travis. I'm going to talk to you about 2 different but very related things tonight. The first thing I want to talk about is our evangelism and mission board. I used to be the chair for the evangelism and mission board. I'm still on that board. Carrie Schleff, who is the chair for our evangelism and mission board, couldn't be here tonight. I was going to be here tonight to talk to you about the next topic, which we'll get to here in a second. And so I told her, yeah, I'd be more than happy to talk about evangelism and mission board and what it is and what we do here and all that good stuff. So just high level, evangelism and mission board does a couple of key things here at the congregation. One of the things that we do is we automatically pledge or dedicate 10% of our annual offerings to various charities or various organizations that are aligned with the LCMS missions and ministry. And we've been fortunate enough, blessed enough over the past several years to 100,000 plus to various LCMS organizations on an annual basis that we support. Probably the biggest one is District, right? I think the lion's share of our offerings goes towards District. And I think that's something as a congregation we feel very comfortable with, right? We know that it's going to go towards ministries in various communities within our district, and it's going to be used in a way that satisfies who we are as Lutherans. And so that's something that's very, very important to us as a congregation. It's something that's very important to us as a member of LCMS, is that the missions and ministries that we support are aligned as close to 100% as possible with LCMS. And so that's a big reason why a big chunk of our offerings do go towards district, because we know that it's going to be in line with that. And then probably the second thing that we support that gets the next lion's share of our dollars is we have a congregation, an LCMS congregation down in Guatemala, Zacapa, Guatemala, that we support. And we don't support it by sending them money, right? We don't do that, but we send our people. And we send our people there to share the love of Jesus and to fellowship with other LCMS Christians. And we work in fellowship with them to reach out to the folks there within their community to bring more people to Christ. I would
just, not to interrupt, but I would just, a little different word maybe is we're partners with a Lutheran church.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
Zacapa, right? And
Yeah,
so it's a partnership with them to help them do ministry and expand their
Absolutely.
ministry in that community.
Yeah, amplifying their efforts.
You weren't saying anything wrong.
Yeah. We amplify their efforts. We support them. We work in arm in arm with them, if you will.
And they have a Lutheran school.
Yep,
there,
Lutheran school.
actually, that we've done things with as well.
Yep. So we invest a lot of our blood, sweat, and tears, if you will, into programs, VBSs for the Lutheran school down there. Painting some rooms and just doing some light renovations,
classes.
English classes.
I've done some theology classes
Our-
for church members.
Yep. Both of our pastors and vicars, when they've gone, have helped out from a here's the right way, or here is a sound way from an LCMS standpoint to really teach about Jesus in a manner consistent with Martin Luther. So just a whole wide variety of things that we do to really support and fellowship with this LCMS congregation and school in Guatemala. Well, partnership, yeah, in Guatemala. And that has been a very, very enriching experience for us as a congregation as well as individual members. I've had the fortunate experience of going a couple of times, and I can tell you that it is a very fulfilling exercise. It is great to fellowship with other Christians. It is great to see the Lord at work outside of your local community. It's good stuff. Now, the last couple of years we haven't been able to do that, obviously, because of COVID. And this year in 2022 we probably won't be able to do that. But it is very much in our vision, right, once COVID is over, to continue that. And I would ask you, right, if you decide to become a member, or for those of you that are members, when that opportunity presents itself, to give it some strong consideration. I went once, not by myself, right, with other folks from the congregation, and then another time I went with my wife. And not that either one was worse or better, right? Got to be careful how I say that. Got to be careful what I say. But when I went with my wife, it was a very fulfilling, very enriching experience. It's something I can't put into words, other than to say that it was a very memorable experience, and I'm glad that I did it as an individual, as a member of this congregation. I'm glad that I went with my wife. It was a wonderful experience, and so I would encourage you to think about that when that opportunity presents itself, hopefully in 2023. Other things that we do from an evangelism and mission standpoint, we've recently partnered with a non-denominational Christian organization based here in Olathe called Mission Southside. And for those of you that are new to the area, and for those of you that are maybe not new to the area, you probably know this, but or you may not know this, but there's a large amount of poverty in Johnson County. I think that there's a stereotype about Johnson County as being wealthy and you know, people are self-sufficient, and there's definitely some truth to that. But there's a large amount of people in Johnson County, in Olathe, who don't have those type of advantages that a lot of folks in Johnson County do. And Mission Southside recognizes that. And so they've set up an apartment ministry where they work with several different apartment complexes here in Olathe, and kind of creating an avenue for congregations such as ourselves to come on site and develop a partnership, much in the same way of what we're doing in Guatemala, is just here locally. And so we just recently started this, and we've been paired up with an apartment complex here in Olathe. In fact, just this last Sunday, we had our first event. It was a barbecue event, and it was a fellowship event where we introduced ourselves as individuals and congregations, and looked for opportunities in which we can fellowship with them and maybe serve them in ways that no one else can serve. So that's another opportunity that we're working on, and that I'm personally very excited about, and I know several others are excited about. And so once again, if you're an existing member or new member or choose to join, take a look at that opportunity as well. It's one of those where you don't, obviously if you're a teacher, we've got some programs in place. We'll be working with the kids on kind of a homework club type of thing. But there's going to be all sorts of things, right? All you really need to do is have a heart for fellowship, have a heart for talking to other people about Jesus that may not have heard about Jesus, and just be willing to go and share whatever it is you have to share with people that may not get to hear some of the things that we have to share on a fairly regular basis. So those are a couple of big things, big rocks, if you will, that we're working on in evangelism and mission. Once again, I would encourage you to talk to me anytime, or Carrie Schleff, if you have any other questions or comments or ideas as it relates to the evangelism and mission board. So with that, before I move on to the next topic, does anyone have any questions about our evangelism and mission board here and kind of some of the things that we do?
Did I hear you say that you kind of coordinate with other churches too, with that mission?
So Mission Southside does. They're a Christian organization, but they're non-denominational. And so there are other congregations. In fact, I think there are other LCMS congregations that work with them, the same type of thing. And they're merely I don't want to say they're merely a matchmaker, because they're more than that. But for our purposes, they're a matchmaker. They're like, hey, we would be interested in helping an apartment complex community here in Olathe. And they're like, I've got a perfect apartment complex for you that needs a congregation support, and they make that marriage happen, if you will.
Do they belong, like Beautiful Savior, with another congregation or an apartment complex, or is that kind of Beautiful Savior's?
Yeah, I believe that probably is an option, but for us, it's just us. Yeah.
I think they try, because there are so many apartment complexes around here, and the hidden ones tend to be I think the low income ones,
Yeah.
right? So the one that we're partnered with is this Presbyterian church right down here across from the O'Reillys. There's a low income apartment complex kind of hidden back there behind.
Yeah.
And then, so that's the one we're partnered with, and I think they really seek, because there's so many, they're seeking churches that are willing and able to partner with these apartment complexes, and so it's kind of a one-to-one
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
an arrangement.
Yeah, I did a windshield tour with them a couple of times where they went around to all of the apartments that they currently support, and I was amazed at the number of apartment complexes that are, to Pastor's point, just kind of hidden. and they are low income, and there are food needs there. There's lots of needs there. And that's the other thing, too, is Mission Southside kind of serves as a receptacle for donations, and that includes donations from restaurants, from the food that they can't use. And before we got assigned this particular apartment complex, we did work with some other congregations just kind of as a shadowing exercise. And a lot of them would, on every Friday, would go to Mission Southside, get all of this food that had been donated. Many of it, much of it was, some of it was perishables, and get it rounded up from Mission Southside, go to the apartment complex, and then bag it up and basically go door to door within the apartment complex with the friends that they'd already kind of connected with, and where they knew that the need was, and provide them, you know, with that food and other various materials offered, you know, hey, is there anything that we can pray for you today, and all that good stuff. And, you know, a lot of them, English is a second language. A lot of them are migrant workers, and that's okay. We've got a couple of folks on the team that are proficient in Spanish, and so when we have someone that just can't speak English at all, we do have someone that can help translate. So yeah. Any other questions from an evangelism and mission standpoint? So I'm going to go from talking about giving our time and treasure to collecting our time and treasure. No, not going to do that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, next topic, right, is our capital campaign that we're currently under. I'm the capital campaign director for the Trusting Hearts Capital Campaign. And if you didn't notice, we have a big building going up, a big shed going up over here, a big barn.
Noah's Ark.
The Noah's Ark, right? We're getting the rain, so it's coming along just fine. And wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that as well. Kind of to talk about where we're at now, I kind of have to talk a little bit about where we've been, and a lot of the details, a lot of the where we've been and where we're going is contained in this handout that I gave you. And apologize somewhat. It was initially set up to be like a booklet to where you could open it up, and so if the formatting looks a little bit off, that's why. But it's
So
still,
you just have to imagine page 2 and 3 go together.
yeah. But at any rate, there's still
That's
a
what
lot
I
of
could do.
Yeah.
That's what I could do with 5 minutes to spare.
still a lot of good information in there, and I would encourage you guys to review it as it kind of tells the entire picture. But to kind of tell about where we're at, I kind of have to tell a little bit about where we've been. And in 2013, we had a capital campaign. Well, I have to go based upon where I worked, because it is everything.
No, actually, share that. That's like the best part of the story.
Yeah, everything in my life centers around where I was on a given date or what was going on in my life. So we did a capital campaign in 2012. Actually, it was the start of 2013 is when we started. And what Pastor alluded to is we had decided as a stewardship committee or stewardship team that we needed to do a capital campaign. The narthex that you see now, the actual front door was very close to, was much closer to the sanctuary doors than what it is now. That narthex was about half of what it is now. So if you've been here on a Sunday recently and you're probably like, man, it's kind of crowded here. Imagine what it was like about 5 or 6 years ago. And so we decided to do a capital campaign to basically expand that out. And we also did some, this sanctuary.
We did this chancel.
Yep.
It was very plain, 2 steps, carpeted, no communion rail. So we pulled this out,
Yeah.
tiled it, communion rail, new altar furnishings, new baptism font, new stained glass window. There was never glass in that. And so Concordia, Nebraska Liturgical Arts Department did all of the artwork for us, we paid them to do it, but
Yeah.
that was, so this was all done. And then the playground.
Yep,
was
playground.
part of that as well.
So it was, I don't know, just shy of $1 million, I think, is what the total cost was. Much needed improvements, much needed enhancements. Pastor Schultz here, when we made that decision, he asked me if I would be the campaign director, and I said, yeah, let me think about it. And so I go to work the next day, and I was working at a company that had just gotten purchased by some capital investors. Not bore you with that. But I go to work the next day, and they decided to let me go and bring in their team of capital investor folks to, do what I did, essentially. And so I called up Pastor, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm available. So I was out of work for a period of almost 9 months, 10 months roughly, basically the life of the campaign from the point of saying yes, I would be the capital campaign director, all the way up to our commitment Sunday. And so me as the capital campaign director was asking the congregation to get behind and dig deep and stretch yourself and give everything you can and all that other good stuff. And I couldn't give anything, really. I mean, I could, but couldn't really give anything other than my time and my passion for the project. So I stand up here on Commitment Sunday, or very close to Commitment Sunday, I guess it was, and told the congregation, exactly what I was going to give. And there was a lot going on in my life, as you can imagine, and, did have some money stashed away. And so I was like, what the heck? So we made a very bold commitment. I said it in front of the congregation what it was. Hopefully, I believe it inspired some people. The next day, I got a job, and I'm working where I'm at today. So, it's it's kind of a dream job too, dream company, all that good stuff. So things kind of work out, and so it's just a story that I like to share, and it brings a smile on my face and all that other good stuff. So that's where. So flash forward to now. Have the membership has continued to grow. Our preschool has continued to grow. It's an awesome preschool, and we have ran out of space, right? And so, as a congregation, back in early 2019, we, through much debate, consternation, we decided to go forward with the Trusting Hearts Capital Campaign. And Trusting Hearts Capital Campaign, the verse that we've chosen is Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and He will make straight, your paths. All that
And
good.
just a little bit of, I think it's kind of interesting detail where we were doing actually a parking lot expansion, the last bay out there, and I was standing out there with the civil engineer who was a member at the time, and he said, Pastor, do we have any plans for our property? Because this subdivision was starting to be planned. And he said, and I kind of told him what we were maybe thinking of eventually. And he said, have you guys thought about working with the city and getting something on paper? Because he said, if this subdivision goes in, they can say no to anything you ever want to build. And I was like, oh. And I went to church council, and church council said, oh.
Yep.
And so we put together a building committee and hired an architect and had plans drawn up. And as that was going, more and more people just started to say, we really need this now, right? It's nice that we're looking at the future, but the future's kind of now. And so church council said, yep, the future's now. And then I said, hey, we need a capital campaign director.
So I said, yeah. Didn't lose my job. Yeah. But the one thing I did do this time that it was a little bit different is don't take this the wrong way. I didn't do a whole lot. I really got probably 10 to 15 people to really dig in and own it, is really what I did. And so I think because of that, We've had a lot of great energy because of this campaign, because of the involvement that we've had, not only from a financial standpoint, but from a sweat equity standpoint. And so, to Pastor's point, we put our stake in the ground, right? To some people felt we were moving a little too fast, and I get it. Because, it's like, are we being forced to do this because of the subdivision, and are we a year or two too early, and all that other good stuff?
Well, COVID hit.
Well, and then so we had that, and we got through that hurdle, right? We really leaned into Proverbs, trust in the Lord with all your heart and all that good stuff, and so we did that, right? The fall and winter of 2019, and we're off and running. And then we all know what happened in 2020. And it was kind of a debate. Do we need to pause? Do we need to quit?
We had a parking lot.
We had a parking lot council.
A drive-up parking lot voters meeting.
Yeah.
In June.
Yeah. Much debate, both sides, much merit, right? The people that were concerned about pausing, those concerns were very valid and solid. The people that wanted to push on, very right. They were substantiated in their opinion and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, we leaned on Proverbs 3, right? And we haven't looked back. And it's made all the difference in the world. We've been very aggressive with this capital campaign from the beginning on let's not put limits on what God can do. Let's let God put limits on what he, wants to happen. And so far, it's made all the difference. It's made all of the difference. We set out to, as you'll see in here, we set out to get pledges of $2.2 million. And as most capital campaign professionals, right, we worked with LCEF, Lewiston Church Extension Fund, as kind of a consulting arm on this and to guide us. Most, including them, will tell you that, if you put out a goal of, hey, we want to raise, 2.3, or you want to get a commitment level of 2.3, you're probably going to come in under that. And we did. We ended up getting commitments of just under 2.1, I believe. So that I was pretty impressed with that. Right, I thought we might come in a little bit under 2. And then the other thing too is that most capital campaign professionals will tell you that if you get a commitment of X, it's going to be less, right, of what you actually realize. And in both cases, the capital campaign that we did back in 2012, 2013, whatever it was, and this one, we are on well on our pace to hit that goal and exceed it. Once again, it's because we're trusting in the Lord with all of our hearts. And so, why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because that building is going to cost more than, 2.1 million, 2.3 million. It's probably going to come in around 5 million? 5.5. Yeah. 5.5, 6, 7. No. And so the great thing is that we are a very financially sound congregation, and we can finance that without having to make, huge sacrifices, right? We have got a very, very, very sound team here that manages our finances very, very, very well, and we are in a good position. But maybe there's a reason why I started out with talking about evangelism and mission. But, we're going to have to pay some interest, right? And that interest takes away from what we can do in Guatemala. That interest takes away from what we can do with Mission Southside. That interest takes away from what we can send a district to help with other congregations and organizations within our district that need our help. That takes away from a lot of stuff that we are really good at, here. And so a lot of people, myself included, we're going to go above and beyond our commitment. We're going to give until we can't give anymore. And so what I want to ask you guys, especially if you're new members, and if you're still someone considering membership here, I would ask you to prayerfully consider, what you might be able to do to help us with this capital campaign. I think one of our big misses on the last capital campaign was we didn't ask new members. Our thought was, they're new, they're not going to want to get involved, and that was completely opposite of the truth, right? We had several new members that after the capital campaign was over, it was like, yeah, you should have asked me. I joined, 2 years into the capital campaign. Well, I'm more than happy to be a part of it. And so I made that commitment. If we ever do that again, I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen. So what I'm not going to do here today is I'm not going to tell you that you need to give to our capital campaign. I'm not going to do that at all. What I am going to do is I'm going to invite you that if you do have that, if you do see the value in what we're doing here and you are moved to get involved, whether that be financially, whether that be, painting walls, whatever, I would ask you to do that. And so you obviously have this. I'm also going to leave in the back a couple of things. Number one is this is more of kind of a supplement to this brochure, and it gives you a little bit more of an updated timeline, right? When we expect to be done and kind of some of the key milestones in the building.
Carrie just wrote that.
Yep. So it's a lot of like things that have happened since this was printed, and so I would encourage you to take one of these. I would also encourage you, especially if you're a member, whether you want to be a part of the campaign or not, to take one of these cards. And this is a commitment card that the entire congregation filled out, when we kicked off the campaign in 2019, and committed, what they wanted to give through the life of the campaign. And if you are so moved to do that, whether it's $1 or $1 million, please do that. And then fold it up, put it in an envelope, bring it to the next service, and put it in the offering plate. And our accountant will put it in the church software so that he can track against your commitment, and you'll get quarterly statements along with your regular giving that shows where you are tracking to your commitment. So once again, I would encourage you, especially if you're currently a member, to take both of these. And then the other thing too is if you've already made that decision, like I'm going to give till I'm blue in the face. These are the offering envelopes that we use for the capital campaign. They're in bundles of 12. Most people do their capital campaign commitment or their offering towards their commitment on a monthly basis. But some people do it on a quarterly basis. Some people do it on an annual basis, especially some of our retired folks, and they have to kind of navigate some of the tax liabilities that come with investments and all that other good stuff. So if you're full on ready to do it, I'm going to leave these back there, and so feel free to take one of these. If you decide later, right, if after maybe you're not a member yet, or you are a member, and after you've talked about it with your family, you do decide to, hey, we're going to do this. These are also back there in the narthex by the boxes. So, if you do decide you don't want to take ones today, that's fine. You can grab some by the mailboxes in one of the acrylic holders there. Or, you can always stop me. One other thing, and before I move on, and pass it off to whoever's next.
Say, it's about time to pass it off.
Yeah. I enjoy the mic. I don't always get a mic, I don't always get a mic. I'm gonna soak it up. I'm gonna use it for all it's worth, A lot of our members with this capital campaign, myself included, had stock, had investments that we could, I donated them directly to Beautiful Savior without cashing them and therefore absorbing that tax liability. So I was able to pass it off to Beautiful Savior, and no one paid taxes, which is always a good thing. We do have mechanisms in place to receive financial assets, if that is something that you would choose to do. So John Blakely is our accountant here. He can tell you what you need to do, or tell your investment broker what they need to do to make all of that happen. So I have said a lot, and I still have the mic, and so I would love to hear any questions that you might have. Any questions? I got you all fired up. You're ready to go? Yeah?
Great job, you're very inspirational.
Well, tell that to my wife. No. Or my kids, actually. Tell that to my kids.
The only thing that I would add to that whole thing, and some of that's in the capital campaign brochure that we gave you stapled together, but just kind of the vision for the building is really for ministry among ourselves, and then also then into the community. So I mean, we needed space for Sunday school. It's really difficult to have Sunday school and preschool classrooms, and we've made that work for a long, long time. But we've also had classes that have grown, and so to have 25 Sunday school kids in one of the classrooms downstairs becomes kind of inundating. And so Sunday school space is really an awesome gift, and the rooms are not a lot bigger, but they're bigger, and should be just really nice space. We've got expanded space for church meetings. Sometimes church meetings are at a premium. Everybody fights over what we call it the fellowship room. Everybody fights over the fellowship room because it is the easiest, most convenient space for a church meeting, because you park here, you walk in the front door, and boom, you're meeting, right?
Irony of fighting over fellowship room.
Right, fighting, irony of fighting over space in the church. So it gives us a lot more expanded capacity for meetings. It gives us expanded Bible class capacity right now. I mean, when there's 2 or 3 meetings and then a Bible class or 2, people are kind of crammed into spaces that aren't as nice. So we have a really nice room for like ladies during the week Bible class, men's during the week Bible class, those kinds of things. Another really nice conference room, kind of like the fellowship room, that people can just walk in the front door and have their meetings. So we got some nice spaces down for those kinds of expanded things. We have a youth room that is gigantic, one of the biggest youth rooms that I've seen at a church, honestly, and it's going to be, I think, very useful to the youth program here, and Pastor Ada. And they have, we used to have a house sitting out here, about where the, just about the, what would it be, the northwest corner of the building. The house was right about there. And we took that down in order to do this expansion. But the youth, for years and years and years, met in the basement of the house. Musty. It took on water from the windows at times. Musty. Dungeon, basement of an old house kind of
Moldy.
thing. And you walk through the rain or the snow to get to Sunday school on Sunday morning, things like that. It's just, it wasn't a good space. And now they're crammed into the carpeted room down on the northwest end of the preschool wing. And that's a small room for youth. So it's really kind of a neat space for them. And then just the big space, whatever we call it. I think fellowship is a little confining, because we envision a lot more than just fellowship in that space. But we have had to rent space at Olathe East in order to do congregation dinners, or other places that we've rented space at for congregation events and dinners. And so it's going to be a big blessing for that. But we're also looking at then assisting and aiding the community around us. Christ Lutheran has already asked us about using it and asked us about how much. And as of right now, I don't know, church council is kind of fighting about what to charge. And most are leaning towards nothing. Just if you want to use it, schedule it and get bumped by church events. That's the only caveat. But dads with daughters, right? A free place to have a wedding reception. I think we have a lot of dads excited about that that potential. So we really want it to be a space, for us and the community, and then always, I'm not. It was really popular 10 years ago for churches to do 5-year plans and 10-year plans, and I went through that. I went through the Pastoral Leadership Institute, and that was a big thing then. And I kind of think that's sort of not a great way of thinking anymore. There's a lot of pastors that don't last 10 years at a congregation, let alone 5, or 5, let alone 10. And so I'm of the ilk that I just always ask, what's next? What's the next thing? And I had a member share like 3 things today that we could start and be part of with this space. So those are the kinds of things that I get excited about, just hearing, and not having my own ideas and thoughts, but then also hearing, hey, Pastor, what if we did this, right? And I think my question needs to always be, well, how are we going to use that to connect people to Jesus? But that's kind of what the vision is, and so it's always for me, it's always a what's next. And our mission trip to Guatemala was what's next for about my first 5 years. I needed somebody to do that, and then the Lord dropped Pastor Ad into our lap, and I said, so youth and evangelism, and here's what we're doing with evangelism. We're going to find a church and partner with them. And so that's the kind of thing, right? So was waiting for somebody to do young adults, and we had a vicar, and it was like, this is what you're going to do. And so that's what I think the church should be about, right? What's next? What's next for me? What's next for my family? What's next for the congregation in terms of mission and ministry? So that's kind of maybe a snapshot of the building, right? You build it and then it sits empty. It's kind of a waste of $5 million. So our goal is to what can we do? What can we do for ministry here at Beautiful Savior, but then for others in the community as well? So.
Trent, thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
One other thing I was going to point out, when Trent was talking about the capital campaign and we heard some of the numbers come up, we don't have a lot of millionaires in this congregation.
Oh, we have none. I'm very jealous of congregations that have rich people. I think we're all rich compared to people who live in the apartment complex we're partnering with, right? I mean, we're really rich, but we had no large gifts in this capital campaign, right, Trenton? I mean, no like large being like $250,000 gifts.
So the widow's mite was a large gift.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to feel maybe pastoral here. Every gift is large.
No, that's fair. That's fair, right? But I mean, we're doing this building on the widow's mite, not on member A who gave 500,000 and member B who had $1 million and member C who has $1.5 million when they die.
We do
Right.
not have a daddy of ours.
Yeah, my old church built a new sanctuary, $6 million sanctuary or so, and the pastors were like, no, we can do this. We can do this. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, this is so much money. And it's like, no, we can do this because when Marie dies, we're going to get $2 million. Right? We weren't able to really tell anybody that, right? But when Marie dies, we thought we were going to get $1 million, and she died after I left, and they got $2 million from her estate. We don't have, I don't have anybody like that I know of in this congregation. So it's really amazing. We paid off that in just under 3 years. We were done with that, and we're $1.5 million, $1.6 million that we have paid into this.
1.6 as of October
1.6 that we've paid into this, so. Yeah. So, and the other thing that I would point out too is when Trenton said the interest takes away, that's a euphemism. That interest isn't going to take away from any of our giving because we're going to keep doing that.
But we can get more.
Yeah.
Right. When there are
Right.
no plans to decrease our investment
Correct.
in mission and ministry because of interest, when we reduce that interest, it only accelerates the amount that we can increase that, right? So if we're giving roughly 100,000 today, that's not going to go down unless something should change from a congregation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, let me know if there's anything that you have any questions about.
All right.
I'll set this stuff in the back.
We've got a couple other speakers here now, and Jennifer, if you'd like to come up. Jennifer Monken is chairman of our Board of Fellowship, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what they do and how they do it and who they're looking for and anything else.
Be online.
Are we recording this?
Might not.
Yes, it is.
We are recording.
Oh, great. Hi. Hello. I'm Jennifer Munkin. I have been a member here at Beautiful Savior along with my husband for about 20 years. My husband is actually Pastor Ada's brother-in-law, so we're related. People think Mike and I are brother and sister. We're not. I'm the outlaw. We're the outlaws. I am the chair of the fellowship board, and for about 1.5 years, I've been the chair of the fellowship board, and we really haven't been able to do a lot since I've been chair because of all the craziness. We are just starting to get things back going again as far as fellowship is concerned. We started donuts again this fall, and surprisingly, we're able to do it twice a month. We're not doing it every week. We don't need donuts every week. But we are having donuts twice a month, along with coffee and hot chocolate for the kids. And we typically do things around Easter. We do a Lenten dinner every Wednesday evening. We do a Seder meal as part of the Easter festivities, and that's always been something that's really, really special, I think, and really helps. I know my family get into that Easter week. We do it right before Holy Week, or right at the beginning of Holy Week. To get started with that. So I think that's a great thing that we do. We just did Fall Fest last weekend with, I think, limited attendance, but it was still good to see people back together again with a variety of things offered for the whole family.
It was good for the space that we had, and
At the moment, right?
I don't know if you were in church today that I said, and next year, right, we'll have space for like 500.
We will. It'll be amazing. One of the things our fellowship board is really talking about is not only providing fellowship opportunities for our church members, but also starting to reach out more to the community members. So I'll be looking forward to working with Carrie Schleff and doing some more evangelism type things and reaching out to the community. You know, we have that sign, those signposts out there. And as I was driving up the other day, I'm like, shoot, we should have put up a sign for Fall Fest. That would have been really smart. Why didn't I think of that, right? So now I'm thinking of that. And our goal will be to try to reach out more to the community as well. But like I said, our goal is really to provide fellowship opportunities for our members, to get to know one another in more social situations, to provide opportunities for people that might not have opportunities. I mean, I know you guys just moved here and maybe you're looking for a way to meet people, and so hopefully that's a way that we can provide that along with the other things that are offered here at church. So our goal is to try to do something once a quarter, and with the new fellowship space, we're ecstatic about the opportunities that we'll have to work in that
a
space.
large event once a quarter is what you're saying?
Right.
Right. Besides
Besides
like the
donuts.
Lenten dinners and
Yes.
right, the
Things
other
like that.
things.
Yes.
Yeah. Fellowship board is really odd. I've never been. My dad is a pastor, brothers, right? Lots of pastors in the family. Never heard of a church that had a fellowship board.
Oh.
But when they built this church 28 years ago or so, fellowship became very important, and so they added that as a board. And And we talked about when we revised our constitution a couple of years ago, we talked about, well, is it really a board or should it just be a committee? And at the time, the chair made a good case that it should be a board. And
We
it was
have a
like,
budget.
all right, that's great. So that's why we have a fellowship board, but
Yeah.
it's really a great board. Whether it's a board or a committee, doesn't matter that much, but it's I would want it, if I went to any other church, I would want a group like this in any other church that I go to. I think it serves a really important and needed function in a congregation.
Thank you very much. So we are recruiting. We have a couple of members who are leaving us. I'm so sad. One is moving out of the country. So we are recruiting a couple people. So if you are interested in serving on the fellowship board, we typically meet once a month, if that. We haven't met even this last month, but and then it's really just helping with those fellowship events and planning and serving. So would love to have you on my board if you are interested. And I think that's it, unless you guys have questions for me. We're open to men. Mark, you want to
Yeah.
join us?
So this is a weird thing, right? So ushers, traditionally men. It's like, well, why can't women be ushers? Altar guild, traditionally women. It's like, well, men can serve on the altar guild. That's just ridiculously dumb. And fellowship is kind of the same way.
Yeah, it's always
they
typically
toyed
been.
around with having a guy as a member, and it didn't really pan.
Just a little embarrassed.
I think he probably was like, I'll barbecue for you, but
We
I
don't
don't
talk
need to
about
be on
anything,
the
right?
committee or on the board, right? I think that's kind of what it was. But
If you
yes,
like
I mean, if
food
a husband
and you're
wife
social-
wanted to join together,
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure that they would take you. If anybody's like a gourmet chef, and
Right,
is
we'll
a-
definitely
and
take
is
you.
a guy, it's like, yeah, right.
Right? You were? I did not know this.
Yeah. It's just,
So you know
it's
what you're
weird. I think what happened, and it's just, you get used to something and then it doesn't change, right? So when they built this, the women helped with the building also, but it was the women who provided the food and everything that went along with it, right? So while the husbands worked, a lot of times the women provided that. And I think the fellowship board kind of took on that female gender, and then it never broke out of that.
Right.
Never broke out
It's
of
a
it.
tough stereotype to break.
Does Hope,
but-
Hope has a fellowship board? And it's actually a board, not a committee? Huh. Wow, now there's two in the area.
There you
I've
go.
never heard of it before. All the congregations that I know. That's pretty wild.
You know, you're from
It is
St.
the
Louis, so.
motivating board within our church. Thanks, Jennifer.
Here, I'll just hand it to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you all, meet you all. I'll see you on Sundays. I'll hang around for the next two. I won't be here.
And enjoy safe travels. They are going to Scotland and Ireland. On a Scotch and whiskey tour. Probably a few more things, but.
All right. Next, we have Ron Earney, who is chairman of our board of member engagement. And Ron's going to tell us a little bit about himself and them and what they do. And
Okay, yeah,
Thanks,
I can do
Ron.
that. Hi, everybody. Okay, yeah, Board of Member Engagement. I'll give you a little bit of background, but before I do that,
I know,
hey,
it's
my head.
this is weirder than the fellowship board.
We are a support board for everybody else. So everybody that you've heard speak about what they do, we're kind of that background entity that helps behind the scenes. So, all right, my name's Ron Arney, and been members here for about 9 years. One of my daughters was married here 2 years ago. Peyton was confirmed 7 or 8 years ago. So it's been a really good experience for us. We love it. So that's how we said, all right, we need to get involved. We need to do a few things. Started out on the stewardship board. And this is interesting because the stewardship board evolved into the Board of Member Engagement. Why do you ask? Because Pastor Schultz,
Pastor Schultz was going to axe the board.
Yes, because he does a very good job talking about stewardship and financial gifts.
Not even
Well,
that, really. So we looked at all the boards about probably
4 years
years ago. We started the process, and my question is, How does your board serve the congregation? Your board does not serve me in any way. Your board does not overwatch me in any way. Your board has really nothing to do with the pastor because I report to the elders and church council and not to any board. In fact, the Constitution and bylaws, typically a pastor doesn't even have to go to a board meeting. So if I don't come to your board meeting, how do you serve the congregation? And we had one board that couldn't come up with that answer. They struggled and debated and struggled, and at the end of the day, all a couple of the members wanted to do was watch over what pastor's doing and give tips and suggestions on what he should teach, etc. Yeah, right? Big eye roll. I don't have time for that. People who are not theologically trained and educationally trained have absolutely, well, very little maybe to offer, right? So it's like, how do you serve the congregation? They couldn't come up with a way besides meeting and hearing reports. You are a bad steward because you're robbing from your family, right? It would be better service to God if you stayed home with your family. So I went to the Board of Stewardship because typically in a church, the Board of Stewardship helps with the yearly campaign.
Correct.
And we did a program through Synod called Consecrated Stewards, and
Right.
and the stewardship board helped with that, and then we had a meal at the end, and we actually extended that for a couple more years. But that's really all the Board of Stewardship did. We toyed around, we tried to do some financial seminars and things like that over the years, and they just never really took shape. And so I said, so how does the stewardship board serve the congregation? Because you don't teach stewardship and you don't preach stewardship. So what are you doing to serve the congregation?
So those were our marching orders. And you can see the pastor had a fairly strong opinion about that. Well, that's a good point. So it was really, so what we were trying to do when we were still part of the stewardship board was time and talent. Time and talent. All right, well, stewardship, time and talent, that didn't really jive too well, so we rebranded a little bit and said, you know what, we want to be member engagement. We want to get people involved in the church. So we serve as a support role to the fellowship board, the evangelism board, the ambassadors. If you've got a program going on you need help with, so you see Roger Bedardi, who's back there every Sunday trying to collect names for people who are going to paint. He's on my board. So he's kind of taken that under his wing. You know, building that maintenance building out there, Roger and Keith Glow, big part of that. Keith Glow is also helping with the painting on the member engagement board. So that's kind of what we do. So let me ask you this question. Have we taken pictures? No. Are we going to do that? No. We have to. Okay, so that's huge. So what we would like to do is get your pictures with your names, emails, telephone numbers. I will tell you, if it's just your name and a telephone number with an egg or a silhouette, I'll hunt you down. Will I not?
Oh yeah, he was painting over. He was painting over here a couple weeks ago, and I said so and so's here, and he was like, I need their picture.
Didn't know who they were. That was the embarrassing part. They're prominent members, and they've been here for
who was it?
Chains.
Oh, they've been here for a couple of years.
Yeah, I didn't know who they were. They're 8 o'clock. I'm 10:30, and so when I heard that name, I said, "All right, I'm going to get your picture." Well, she was not dressed for it, so we didn't take the
Cindy kind
picture.
of rebelled against that idea.
So we did. Guess what? I don't have
Their picture.
their picture. So it helps.
She promised to send it to you. Too.
I know, but I'll get her.
Yeah.
I'll probably send an email tonight. But anyway, what we do as a board, we like to know who you are. So if you want to serve on a committee, if you want to serve on a board, if you have a talent, maybe you have a business, maybe you have those skills, we want to know who you are so that we can reach out to you. You may be an individual who wants to help but wants to be asked. Okay, we'll ask you. Others are more than willing to step forward, but that doesn't happen very often. So we are constantly in that recruiting mode. So I'm going to do a little bit of recruiting right now. We absolutely, positively need help on the Ultra Guild. We do. And I know Jennifer was talking about it, and Pastor, you were talking about it. It doesn't have to be women. It can be a couple teams. Some of our best Ultra Guild people or couples.
We actually have,
And it-
we actually right now have several husbands and wives that serve on the Altar Guild.
Yes, and so if you're a behind-the-scenes type of person and you would like to do that, we can get you in contact with the individual to do that.
What it entails is to come at like 7 on Sunday morning, if you're the early group, and prepare the table, and then help clear the table and reset for the late service. And that's usually with the late service team that you reset. And then at the end, you clear the table and reset for the 6 o'clock.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct. So, like when we...
Is your wife on that?
No, we're counting, but...
You're counters,
we're-
yes.
Yes. So when we leave, we'll leave here about 1:15, 1:30. The Altar Guild people are usually done.
Oh,
By
yeah,
the time.
yeah. It's
Because
so,
it's gotten
so if
quick.
we get out of church at 11:45, 12:15 at the latest.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really it's about a half an hour.
It's not bad.
on each turnaround, and then they will clean and dust and things like that. Change banners at the appropriate time.
But
Although the head Altar Guild lady and her husband
They do it.
typically take care of a lot of that even.
Yeah. So that's kind of a low pressure thing. We also are in a huge need for ushers on second service. So if you are a 10:30 person and it's
10:45.
I'm sorry. I'm 10:30. 10:45, 10:30 you have to be here to pass that bulletin.
I know.
You know, and I've had people pull me out of the pew, and I don't usher very often, but they'll pull me out of the pew and say, "Can you help?" No training. It's super easy. You basically are going to usher some people back and forth. They tell you what to do, and you're good
Pass
to go.
out bulletins
Pass
before
out
the
bulletin,
service.
yeah.
Usher people for communion.
So it's those simple things like that we need help with. Maybe you're more of a daycare person and you like to work with little kids. Well, the MOPS program could use some help. When they have meetings, the young adults, just general daycare type, babysitting stuff. We can get you on a list so that you can be contacted. If you're available, great. If you're not, not a big deal. None of this stuff that we do is high pressure. It really isn't. If you've only got 15, 20, 30 minutes a week, okay, no problem. If you're like gung-ho and you want to serve on the board and you want to make a difference, well, I'm on the nominating committee. You let me know. I'll nominate the heck out of you, and you'll be there.
I did, just so you know, kind of expanded and redistributed that it could be me questionnaire. I
It's
fixed.
so sketchy. Did
No,
you
no,
fix
stop.
it up?
I fixed it.
Okay.
It's really good now.
Then I haven't seen it. Okay. Well,
Take
do
my
I have
word for
access to it? We'll find out. We'll find out. Okay.
Yeah, we passed it out so that they could fill it out.
All right. Very nice. Who else has been hounding me about stuff? I think that's it for right now. But
Those are the big ones.
those are the big ones. I mean, Altar Guild and ushers, Altar Guild and ushers. And painting. I bet you hear that every Sunday, so that helps.
So Ron,
Yeah.
how does your group stay out of the way of the other boards?
Well, we,
You want to support it,
Well, that's a great question.
how do we stay out of the way? We really don't get involved until we're asked.
Okay.
Is what we do. And it's weird. It's a fine line because so evangelism, the ambassadors in evangelism, they've asked me to do some stuff, and I'm like, is that really us? And we'll have that discussion, and we usually can kind of find, you do this and we'll do that. It's not hard at all.
Think of Ron and his board somewhat as the staffing people, the headhunters. I mean, I don't mean that.
You know,
to-
well,
to
it's
min-
funny
but
because, and I don't want to take up too much time, but one of the reasons why we kind of created this position as well is we were talking about hiring a person, and that's what they would do. They would find out what everybody needs, and they would be that person that you go to and you call to. But then you get into a situation, what happens if that person leaves? You lose all those resources. And does the church really need to spend X amount of dollars per year on that when you have church members who want to get involved, who can do the job, and you just do it by committee? So we do it ourselves.
Yeah, and we've been, so those interest forms that you fill out, right? I think I said last week when we handed those out, never get upset if you don't get called. You need to be proactive. We really work and try to connect people and make those connections, but you know, people forget, they get busy, they fail to call you, they fail to say, hey, yes, I saw you're interested, we'd love to have you, right? Always best to talk to Ron or talk to me and say, hey, I really would like to get on this, but I don't know who this person is or how to do this, right? That's what Ron's board exists for that. And it's really, you know, when they pitched it to me, we were sitting in a meeting and they actually pitched this to me because they had met they met probably 3 or 4 times without me. And then I came to a meeting and they pitched it to me and I actually sat there and I listened and I was like, all right, well, I actually am not sure that this will work, but let's give it a try. And I was very skeptical, but I would say that it is.
I was skeptical, to be honest with you.
I'm not sure that we have our full potential out of it, but it's really been great so far. I mean, we've been doing it now for what, 3 years, 2 years?
Yeah, I've almost disengaged the board twice. I thought, we don't have anything to do. And then all of a sudden, 8 things pop up.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's a roller
It's
coaster.
a roller coaster thing,
So-
but it's really valuable. It's a kind of a weird board, and
Yeah, we're weirdos.
I was very skeptical about it, and it was like, all right, I really see the niche that they try to serve, which is pretty cool.
It's working. Okay. So by any means, if you've got any questions, you want to get involved or what, just, I'm in the church directory. Please use it right at the top. Send me an email and I'll get you involved. All right.
All right, we do not have Jeremiah's picture.
Appreciate it.
We do not have Chris and Mina's picture. No. Oh, Carrie Schleff has to approve it. We have the Kettings picture. We have Kettings. That's the next one back. Terry Norwood is not technically a member yet, so we do not have you in the directory. And are you guys know yet? You're still thinking?
This was a perfect meeting. We'd like to get plugged in.
Dang close. Okay. That's all good. That's all good. So we need Jeremiah's picture. And Terry's picture. Yeah. So, yeah. I will, yeah, why don't you go get George? So we have preschool here at Beautiful Savior. You've hopefully noticed. My wife Amy is the director. We have had, let's see, so they built this original building, the box that's here, and they very quickly ran out of space. They actually removed all these chairs after the 8 o'clock service, set up tables and dividers to have 4 classrooms for Sunday morning, and then took that all down and set up chairs again for late service every Sunday. I'm just amazed. I've set up these chairs many, many times. When I first got here, this was our fellowship space, so I've taken down and put up chairs a lot. We haven't had to do that as much anymore with the new space out here, so that's worked fairly well for us. So they quickly ran out of space, and instead of building the sanctuary, they were going to build a sanctuary right down there on the ground floor. And instead of building the sanctuary, they built the education wing. And then very quickly, it was like, well, let's have a preschool since we have this wing. And we've had, I think Amy's our 3rd director, I believe. And she's the first one that's a member. And that has just made our preschool go from, what did she say at our last council meeting, George? Like 40 kids and 120 kids now. And yeah, and we actually lost some because of COVID, and so we haven't really actually recovered those numbers. We're working, because we have this building and we'll have classrooms for Sunday school and Bible classes. We're actually working at taking these 2 north classrooms and adding, we're going to, with some contract labor, some congregation labor, we're going to add 2 bathrooms to those 2 classrooms so that we can, Mother's Day Out is not in a good space. It's always been in the church and nursery, and it's just not it's licensed, but it's not a good space. Our congregation president, his wife, does the Mother's Day Out group, and she is very much looking forward to taking over that carpeted room where the youth are right now. And then the other room becomes a potential expansion for the preschool. We're also looking at some reshuffling of some spaces, kind of some in-between, hey, what can we do with congregation labor kind of spaces to give them the conference room downstairs. If you've been downstairs, there's a conference room right across from the pastor's offices. In my mind, it's like, well, we could convert that and open a doorway into the preschool and have another room that they could use for music or movement. Well, they'll actually use the upstairs for movement classes, but music classes and a better day or a better nursery during Sunday school hour, and then some space. We'd reclaim maybe a space where John, our business manager, could have a real office. John's office is about that big. John's office is about this big, so it'd be nice to give him a little bit more space. So very excited. I think when I came here, most members of the congregation either didn't know we had a preschool or knew nothing about the preschool and cared very little about the preschool. And again, that's what you get from having a non-member director. The non-member director was also a major introvert, so like she didn't really talk or engage with anybody. So now people walk in the door, they schedule a tour, and they walk in the door and they meet Amy, and Amy gives them the tour, and they're ready to sign up because they meet Amy. And Amy's just a great people person, loves everybody she meets, and so she's a great face for the preschool. And then she has just gathered just a great group of ladies who are just excellent preschool teachers, and then the aides, and they're just all loving and caring and work hard to have a really good preschool. So we just passed accreditation. National Lutheran Schools accreditation was just here, and they accredited us. So that's the newest awesome news for the preschool.
It's a mission, it's an outreach as part of the church, and it's been very successful. So we're extremely pleased with what happened. So we have George Ledgerwood, our congregational president, who is here to say a few words.
Use the microphone, please, because that'll pick you up on the camera.
All right, good evening, everybody. As Pastor said, I'm George Ledgerwood. I'm the president of Beautiful Savior. This is my second year in my term. As president, I lead the voters meetings. We have 2 annual voters meetings, more if need be, but we always have 2, one in the spring to discuss our budget, one in the fall to discuss our budget, one in the spring to discuss boards and ratify boards and chairs for the boards. As our council, if we haven't spoke about that, is comprised of 4 officers.
We've only had
3 chairs.
fellowship and member engagement.
Okay. So there's 4 officers. There's a president, a vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and then there's 7. We have 7 boards: fellowship, evangelism and assimilation, preschool, trustees, elders,
Member engagement,
and youth ministry.
And youth.
Correct. So you have all those.
They do have a book with, and
Good.
then they have brief descriptions of the boards as well.
Right, and if you've seen that in the bylaws, there's once you get to the bylaws, there's a very good summary of each of the boards, probably about halfway through the bylaws. So, as each of the boards acts accordingly. They meet. They typically meet monthly or as needed. Sometimes they may skip as need be. We don't meet just to meet. But they do their work, and then typically monthly we gather as a council to discuss updates, discuss things basically for the health and welfare of the congregation, right? Because our mission is the Great Commission to further God's kingdom. So that's essentially the work we're doing. I guess as president, like I said, we have the 2 annual meetings typically, the monthly council meetings. I provide the agenda review it with pastor and others. And
And it's really just about, I mean,
it's,
it's about, I think you and Vice President, I mean, your greatest job is just to make sure that boards are doing work and
right,
serving the congregation and, right?
correct. Yeah, so I mean, it's
It's a good group. I mean, we really work together well there. You know, we fought, at the last church council meeting, we fought about, if we
caringly.
were gonna raise the preschool teachers to 90%. We've discovered that we've been woefully neglectful of our preschool teachers. And so we fought, whether we were gonna raise them to 90% of the district's schedule, which is what the preschool board wanted to do as kind of a step, or just bring them up to 100%, which is what the elders wanted to do. And so, yeah, that was
And I
our,
wouldn't-
that
I
was
wouldn't-
our fight.
And I wouldn't necessarily call it a fight. I would just call it very
Not at all, right?
passionate.
Air quote.
Very, very passionate, right? I mean, it was a long meeting, but we were very concerned, right? And ultimately talked through things, and that's how we worked, right? And like Pastor said, it is a very good group. It's a very strong group, which then makes the job easier, right? To know that we support each other and lift each other up, so.
And non-contentious people.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
just really working for the kingdom rather than for what we want out of the church, right? I've been accused, we had some members leave because they said that Pastor Schultz always gets his way. And it's like, George can probably attest that I don't, right?
We try not to let that always happen, so.
Plenty of times that I haven't gotten my way at a church council meeting, but we work together. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's afraid to bring up ideas, thoughts, right? I mean, because we're all working for the same thing, so.
Questions?
Does anybody have any questions, or?
So, as president of the congregation, where are you at, does your council umbrella all the other, because I know like the elders. God. I mean, is that what it is, so the council, the president?
So the council, so the voters ultimately have all the authority, but between the meetings, our role as the council is to act for the welfare and of the congregation, right? Is that?
So we don't have, so we don't have policy-based governance, we have board-based governance. And so in a policy-based governance, you would have, the church council would be the governing board, and then you have the pastor, and then you have everybody else, right? I would say that we are, in a board structure, it's church council, and as part of church council, you have the elders, but how I like to describe it is the church council is really in the business of the kind of, I don't know, secular affairs of the congregation. I mean, they do budgets, so you're concerned about salaries of called workers, and the vice president chairs the call committees. So there's some of the church work that, right? So I don't want to say that church council is strictly the secular work, but the building and making sure that the trustees have everything they need, and the fellowship board, right? Making sure the boards have everything they need. It's kind of the business of the church. And then the elders are almost lateral, even though the head elder is on church council, but the elders are really in charge of the spiritual welfare of the congregation. And then the pastor really works with both of those groups, right? So the pastor, the org chart becomes messy because technically the pastor is under the elders, but at the same time, and technically under church council, but at the same time, the pastor is kind of on the same level, right? Technically, the elders are kind of under the church council, but also not under the church council. So that's kind of how I see it. I sort of see it as church council and elders and pastor working together for the physical, not secular, physical needs of the congregation and the spiritual needs of the congregation, right? And the pastor is deeply involved in both of those. But the pastor is not in charge, which the pastor is completely in charge in a policy-based governance in a way, because the pastor does budget, pastor hires and fires, the pastor does everything. So that's not right. I support the church council and the church council supports me, and I support the elders and the elders support me. And I think that's kind of the triangle that really works together. And then the other boards are under church council. Staff is kind of under me and the elders, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Preschool staff is under the preschool board,
Right.
but the director is really kind of under the elders because she's a
Called
church
worker.
staff person. So, and org chart is really difficult to draw in a board-based governance where everybody's really kind of working with each
Together.
other,
Right.
in tandem.
Yes,
Is that fair?
it's very fair. Yeah, I agree with that. The
George
only
has
thing
to
I
break
would,
the ties.
the only thing I would disagree with is that we did make a change that the Board of Elders chairs the call committee.
Oh, that's right. The Board of Elders chair
And
the call committee.
that's in there. We actually are going to
That's right.
vote on that.
I forgot that.
in
We've been
November.
working on constitution revisions for a while.
Yes,
So, but I think it's a pretty good document now.
yeah,
It'll be ratified in November.
that's right. Yes,
Anything else for George? George, thank you very
all
much.
right, thank you.
All right.
Eric Olson, who is chairman of our Board of Elders, couldn't make it tonight, but he asked me to pass along his greetings and to let you know, that should anybody ever have any questions, he is available. But I think, you've heard a lot about the Board of Elders and the description in there, so.
What I would say is the Board of Elders, I've really, the Board of Elders have grown a lot. And I would say since I've been here, I mean, in a way, I think we do a lot of theological reading together, which is really good. And I think it's made them very theologically astute in a lot of ways. And then I kind of teach as pastor, the elders have 3 jobs. It's only 3 jobs. I won't put Phil on the spot. Care for the physical and spiritual welfare of the staff, care for the spiritual welfare of the congregation, and care for the worship life of the congregation. And so the elders work hand in hand with Altar Guild and ushers and greeters and those kinds of things. And then, and lots of other boards, really. I mean, the elders have kind of touch points in a lot of places. But then as members, you'll receive hopefully a lot of elder care just to make sure that you're doing all right. And if you disappear for a while, hopefully you're getting a phone call from elders asking, if everything's all right. And some elders, better than others probably, but we have a couple of elders that you'll get a birthday card from them, an anniversary card. You'll receive Christmas cards from probably all the elders, things like that. So I think they really work hard at caring for the congregation. As guys that have full-time jobs, it's a good group and really want to do that and care for the congregation. Phil's been an elder for,
Let's see.
you and Mark
this
Chapin
time-
have been elders since I've been
This
here.
time since 2004.
Right? You two have been elders since I've been here. I tell the elders that it's a lifelong
Yeah.
job. It's just
I can't retire till I get it right. The odds of me getting it right are slim to none.
exactly right. You'll be
But-
there forever.
A couple things that George mentioned. We have some spirited voters meetings. And that's great. That's fantastic. We have different views. We have different opinions. But we also know what the word compromise means. And guess what? That keeps us healthy. It keeps us centered. It keeps us moving in the right direction. And hopefully we don't have anybody fall by the wayside. The other thing we wanted to mention is if on occasion the pastor has something in a sermon that shocks you, it wakes you, no, not wake you up. I mean, if it gets your attention and you're sitting there thinking, wow, why did he bring that up? Because we asked him to. His job is to bring us out of our comfort zone, to make us better at what we do in terms of preaching and teaching and doing what we're supposed to be doing. So if you never want to be, I don't want to say shocked. Yeah, if you don't want to have a little bit of discomfort once in a while, And for me, that's when I get reminded, yeah, I should have done that a long time ago. But it's intentional. It's supposed to happen. It's supposed to happen to all of us.
I am not a namby-pamby pastor who doesn't speak the truth. Some of you who've been in Bible class know that very well, right? That's bring it on. We're told to speak the truth in love, and so we speak the truth. And I'm not going to pussyfoot around with the truth or make the truth non-truth to make people feel better. We can't do that. We can't do that. Our world, secular world, wants to do that so badly, and we cannot do that. Just can't.
One other person, our choir director, who was also tied up at Lutheran High tonight, asked, if we'd say a few words and let you know, or not choir, music director.
Music director.
Handbells, choir, the children's programs, all the things that are happening. If we have people who are musically inclined, she said especially tenors and alto.
Tenors and
soprano?
Probably basses. Tenors and basses. Maybe sopranos. Yeah. If you sing, we'd love to have you in the choir.
And even if you're learning how to sing, she would still love to have you on the choir. So
yeah.
The only two she turned down are myself and my wife. So we thought one day we were singing pretty well, and we thought, wow, maybe we should, think about joining the choir. Until we looked behind us and we had the Schultz family behind us. Yeah. So it wasn't actually us, but we sounded much better then. So, but again, from that, she did express an interest to let you all know that we have loads of opportunities. She said also they have a really good need for somebody in handbells. So if you've had handbell experience, choir, if you play an instrument, it's a great part of our service. So, Pastor?
I don't want to keep you because we promised 7:30 and we're already 10 minutes past, so that Trenton guy took a long time. But I had two more sheets in your book. One of them is living as God's steward, and one of them is witness and service, right? So stewardship, financial stewardship, witness, service. Those are some significant touch points, like worship. What page is there a page number?
Yeah, 23.
23. In the book, like worship, I think your life of stewardship is really also kind of all-encompassing. So last week when I talked about worship, it's very purposeful because that's the main intersection of your life with the church, right? Now you may serve on a board or a committee, you may volunteer here or there, right? But the main intersection that you have, if you're in church every Sunday and Bible class every Sunday, right? This is the 2 hours of intersection that you have. And so worship is incredibly important to the life of God's people, and not just Sunday morning worship, but then making that part of the daily rhythm of your life with devotion and those kinds of things, other Bible classes, etc. But the other really big intersection with your life is stewardship, and stewardship is that how I like to say that is everything you are and everything that you have, and how you use that to the service of the Lord and His church, right? So stewardship is much more than money. Some churches and pastors, because they're always in dire straits money-wise, make it all about money, and that's just a really wrong way to take stewardship. But it's also, I think maybe this past Sunday, I don't know, we said something about stewardship, or 2 weeks ago, I don't remember when, but it's equally wrong to say, well, instead of giving money, I'll give my service. Nope. Money, service, they're distinct, they're separate, and we don't right? The widow gave all that she had money-wise, right? My guess is that she served faithfully as mother, grandmother, wife, whatever her vocations were, seamstress, however she earned those 2 copper pennies, right? She was faithful in the service that God gave her to do. That's part of your life of stewardship, as well as your worship life and your Bible class life and your husband life and wife life and child life and all of your worker, citizen, member of a congregation, right? All of those vocations that God gives you is part of your life of stewardship. And then one of the vocations that God gives you, see, so those are all vocations God gives you, and you serve in different ways in all of those things. But one of the vocations that God gives you is also as a giver. Right? Money giver. And we're all given that vocation as people of God as well. So one of our vocations is money giver and husband and servant in the church and worshiper and prayer and Bible class person and right, all of those various vocations. And I just, I don't mess around with things. I tell it like it is. One of your vocations is money giver. That's just what it is. And in the Old Testament, the standard was 10%. And it's what's interesting is so now, right, in the New Testament time, we've got people that say, well, it's not 10% because Jesus fulfilled the law. That's absolutely true. So there is no number. The New Testament gives no number on your giving. But that 10% number from the Old Testament is an interesting number because a faithful Israelite would have been more than 10%. After all the offerings were said and done and everything that happened at the temple, a faithful Israelite would have given more than 10%. They would have given a tithe of what they earned or took in as crops. But then they would have bought a lamb for a sacrifice or a pigeon for a sacrifice. They would have done whatever it was as part of that too. So I think 10%, what that says to me is that's kind of the basis that God sets for his people. I'm going to let you keep 9/10 and 1/10 for me. And the fact of the matter is that some people aren't able to give 10%. They just aren't able. And we should always think about that if we really are able or not able, right? But some people aren't able, and that's okay. And that's the cool thing. The New Testament doesn't give hey, if you're not giving 10%, you're not being faithful. I know people who give 3% who give very faithfully. And I know people who give 10% who are probably robbing from God and not giving faithfully at all. So just extreme example, right? You make $1 million a year and you only give 100,000? Why? If I can give 10% on what my wife and I make, which is, obscenely generous of the congregation, honestly, and I don't even think 10% is enough, and we're looking for someday not to pay for Lutheran schools and colleges and be able to give more, but if I can do that on our salary, how can a person that makes $1 million a year only give 10%? That makes no sense to me, right? And we're in this quest always to leave so much money to our children and to have a bigger and better house and more toys and things like that. And those can be good gifts from God, and we've got to live in that tension, right? What's a good gift from God and what is too much, right? And I think as Lutherans, we need to live in that tension. And what I said in Bible class, I think I said this in Bible class a couple weeks ago, I think we should always live with an unease about our giving. You should always have an unease about your giving, because the second your giving is complacent, you're probably not being generous anymore. You're probably not being generous anymore to a God who is unfathomably generous to us. And so that would be just some words about stewardship from my perspective. Again, this isn't browbeating time. I'm not, like I said, if you're able to give 3%, great, right? The other truth of stewardship, I think, is that people find themselves as a 1 or 2% giver. And it was really cool. I should teach and preach this again, but a few years ago I did a +1 kind of stewardship preaching moment, and challenged people to give 1 more percent. Give 1 more percent. And I had a few members that really gravitated to that and really liked that, because the fact of the matter is, if you're giving 2%, you cannot jump to 10, right? Because your lifestyle is such that that other 8% is already called for, right? And you really have to grow into the floor, right? You have to walk up the steps so that you're at the kind of the floor of the giving, which I think the Bible says is 10%. And then that's not the last place either, right? That you can actually walk up the steps further and grow beyond simply 10%. So those are some things from my perspective. These sheets, I don't think you have the answers on it, right? If you're interested and you would like to go through these, I can send you the answers. If you go through these and just say, what did you mean by this, Pastor? You can shoot me an email. That's another thing that I would say beyond that stewardship stuff is as pastor, I'm always available. Please never call the church office to get a hold of me. Always call my cell number. It's just, I use my cell. If I can't answer the call, I don't answer the call, right? Members text me, members call me. I'm always kind of annoyed when they call the church and then they can't get a hold of me. You'll always get a hold of me if you call my cell number, always. Like I said, if I can't answer, I'll text you or I'll call you back. You always put my cell number in your phone. If you get sick and have to go to the hospital or something like that, after you text your son or daughter or whoever else, text me or call me and say, hey, I'm in the hospital or my wife is in the hospital or whatever, right? We want to know those things. I would say don't call the church office. The church office might not be manned, but my phone is on every day, 24 hours a day. Maybe once a year.
Where do we find your cell number?
Once a year something goes wrong. Well, I don't really want you to have it.
Will you give it to Mina? Is it in there?
It is actually on the front page.
And it's actually legit? It's not?
It is legit. It
It's
is
not this
legit.
type?
913-660-3946.
Yeah.
That's the
very
one.
good. All
That's the
right.
one. But always available. My phone is on. Middle of the night, right? I mean, 11, 12, maybe 1 o'clock. Feel free to call me. 2, 3, 4 o'clock, call Pastor Ada. I'm usually awake by 5, laying in bed, so I can take the calls after 5. But no, seriously, I can't emphasize that enough. I actually had a member get upset and leave the church once because I didn't care that she had a hysterectomy, and I was like, well, you didn't tell me or the church, so how was I supposed to know? They got mad and left the church, or she got mad and left the church. Crazy, right? I don't know things that you don't tell me, so tell me. The other thing that I would say is I'm always available. I mean, you have a question on theology, you want to know, hey, I had a friend who said this and I don't know how to answer them. I answer emails like that all the time from members. I routinely have people who say, what do I say to this? One of our elders lost a friend to COVID here just recently, and the family was like, why does God do these things? And those are hard questions, right? Because the answer is we don't know, right? And so beyond the we don't know, even one of our elders was like, how do I answer them, Pastor? What do I say to them, right? And so we chatted about that last night in the hallway after confirmation class. And I said, if you want to figure out what you want to say to them and type it up and run it past me, right? I'm happy to help. You want to send them an email saying, hey, I didn't know what to say the other night, but this is what I would say, right? Run it past me. And then he was like, well, would you be willing to even meet with them? Because they're kind of unchurched people. And he said they were kind of talking about maybe they'd be interested in meeting with Pastor Schultz. I was like, yeah, okay.
Is that
Right?
why you're here?
I was like, yeah, right. Yes, invite them to come speak with me. You can bring them, right? So I'm available for all of that kind of stuff, right? Anything that's pastoral care for you and your family or friends, right? We're available for those kinds of things.
Second page is the brochure. It's got contact us and those are the number
Yeah.
of items you need to get in touch with us.
Yep. We like knowing when you're going to have surgery, when you're recovering from something, when you've broken something, right? and you've seen it. We put those on the back page of the bulletin, and we pray for you, for family members, for friends, etc. We're really happy to do that. Prayer requests, if you get them in by like Thursday morning, like before 10 o'clock, they'll make it in the bulletin. If it's after that, this is really important. If you have a prayer request after that, it would be best to email myself and Pastor Ada so that we can have it in the prayers on Sunday. If you text me, usually I will forward it to my email so that it's in my email, right? Texts get lost really quickly. And so if you text me on Thursday afternoon, by Sunday, I may not remember to look at that text. But I try. If you text me, I try to email it to myself, and then I have it. Sunday morning I can look and say, oh yeah, prayer request, right? If I'm not in my office. If I'm in my office, I write it on the bulletin right away, those kinds of things. But that's kind of how that'll work pretty easily for you. Any other questions that anybody has about anything? We do have an online directory. It's a pretty cool thing. We don't have a picture directory, but when you are a member and you're in the system, it's really easy to get into, and like there's Pastor Ada's family, and then you have their address, their phone numbers, their email addresses, and then it says when their anniversary is, it says who their elder is, and then if you want to press on the elder, nope, that didn't help me. What do I want to look at? Oh, yeah, I guess. If you press on the elder, it'll take you to all of the elders, and so all your elders are there. But if you want to know who your elder is and who, like Pastor Schultz said something that really disturbed and upset me, and I don't really feel comfortable to go to Pastor Schultz, right? You go to your elder, and then your elder can bring you to Pastor Schultz or figure that out, right? I don't think you ever have to be like intrepid to come to Pastor Schultz. I think that's a silly thing. People are scared of pastors sometimes. I don't understand that. Really try not to be scary, but I come off, I'm a big personality, and it's kind of funny. Something about me is that I'm an extreme introvert. I do not get any energy being around people. This is an exhausting kind of an event for me. Sunday morning, I was about ready to drop dead after the energy I expended on this past Sunday. I got kind of wound up in Bible class, if you were there. And it's usual, probably, right? Every week. Is that?
We missed it.
Oh, you missed it. Yeah, I got kind of wound up. It was a good Bible class.
We did get to question 3 out of 20.
Stop. We got all the way through. Got the whole thing done. Don't lie. Don't lie. Mr. Eighth Commandment breaker. But
was there a nap in your future that day then?
I didn't get to nap though. What did we do? We did something. Oh, I guess we went home and ate lunch and then watched the Chiefs game, which was miserable.
Yeah,
It was just miserable. And then we went out to eat for dinner, and then, no nap. I don't get naps on Sundays. I don't. It's really sad. I don't. I have a big personality, and I guess sometimes people are intimidated. If you're intimidated about coming to see me about whatever, right? Go see the elder. Go see Phil, and then Phil can come and say, Pastor, you hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, and great, come talk with me, right? It's not ever intentional that I would hurt somebody's feelings. So if I hurt your feelings, please let me know. If I say something that disturbs you, please let me know, right? I can't fix anything that I don't know, right? And as Christians, we're supposed to be able to fix. If I break the 5th commandment by hurting you in some way, or disturbing the truth that you think you know, right, then we need to talk about that. And I can't do that if I don't know about it. So far better than to hold things inside and get upset and then just leave, right? That's always sad, right? Never had a member leave that I wanted to leave, I think. Yeah, no. I've never had a member leave. Well, I mean, it's a fair point, right? Sometimes people are pretty to the pastor, drive the knife in and keep twisting, and those people probably need to leave. But I don't think I've ever had one that I wish would have left.
We don't have a high occurrence of that, so. But thank you all for this evening, for your time. Again, if you have questions, please let us know. Yes, I want to collect those. And then Jeremiah and Terry, if I can get you guys up here, I want to get your picture. And it's not you won't have to worry about dressing up, Terry, so. Everybody else, and thank you, and let us know if
Thanks.
we can help.
Thank you.
All right. And I'm looking at, for those who will be officially joining, right, we usually have a Sunday where the new members come up and they say all the promises, and then we say, yay, they're all members. I'm looking at doing that on the 21st of November.
21st November.
21st of November.
You have a pen?
In whatever service you're at. We just have you come up. And if you guys know by then, fabulous. And if you don't know by then, not a problem at all. All right?
Yeah, where is that?
Ditto.
Jeremiah? Okay.
Sure. Let me